I really want to talk to you about why gender matters in social media design. I do. I really do. But I can't stop thinking about electric shavers. I don't know. Has it happened to you before? It happens to me. You wouldn't think that there's much in common between social media and electric shavers, but there is. They're technologies that we use every day. And researchers in the Netherlands who study the relationship between gender and technology have used this example specifically in some of their research. And I wanted to tell you about it. So take a look here. These images are not exact replicas, okay? But I think you get the idea. You've got the lady shave and the filla shave. I think you can figure out which one is which. Now, both of these products are designed for us to remove hair, right? But they're designed in very different ways. So take a look at the lady shave. We've got pastel colors. We've got curves. We've got, at least in the design that they researched, we've got pictograms. So you can figure out what the functions are on your shaver. And you've got a way to charge it, right? You've got a fairly bulky charger sitting there, but a charger nonetheless. And of course, any shaver needs screws to hold it together. You just can't quite see them in that design. Now let's take a look at the filla shave. Okay, you've got darker colors. You've got right angles. You've got buttons that say things like charge control. It's true, take a look. You can plug this device into any outlet. And you can see the screws. Maybe not on my picture here, but trust me. Those screws are there. You can see them. They're visible. Okay, so what does this matter? Researchers tell us that this says something about gender. So what these products are telling us is that women like pastel colors. They like curves. They don't like to tinker with technical objects. No. They don't really like gadgets. And they prefer to stay at home. I mean, that clunky charger there, that's probably not going to fit in your suitcase. Come on. On the other hand, we've got men. They like dark colors, right angles. They're into it. They are. They like technical objects. They like to tinker. And they like gadgets, and they live a mobile lifestyle. They can take that device, and they can plug it into any outlet they find. Like a hotel room here, probably that one over there, they can do it. So, okay. This is starting to tell us a little bit about design, that it's a social act, right? That gender is somehow encoded into these technologies. That the designers didn't design these in a social vacuum. They have ideas about men and women. I'd say they're rather traditional ideas about men and women. But they had these ideas, and that informed some of their design decisions. So it tells us something about how we ought to be a man or a woman. It tells us that men are technically competent, that they should be able to access those screws because they might want to repair their device or clean it out. Women don't need to even see them. Let's hide them inside the design. And it tells us something about male agency. But sure, some of you might be saying, okay, come on now. And it's true. It doesn't mean that every user of one of these products accepts this gender script. It doesn't mean that, like users are passive and they just agree to whatever, they're being told. But what does this have to do with design, and why does this matter? Does it matter that things are designed in gendered ways? Well, when your understanding of gender comes from this kind of traditional perspective, you've got traditional ideas about gender norms, like the ones that you see here, these relate to power dynamics. And these relate to the way in which women and men relate to each other. And it relates to a wider cultural dynamic. And it's reproducing these traditional ideas about gender. But design matters in all sorts of different artifacts. And it's not just gender that's an issue. Disability studies have made major contributions to our understanding of how we design our social worlds. And that our designs don't fit everyone. Okay, but what about social media? Let's talk about one of the most popular ones. Have you heard of Facebook? Okay. Do you think the designers and engineers of Facebook are influenced by gender? Do you think the technical infrastructure of Facebook reproduces gendered power relations? Let's start off here at the sign-up page. In 2006, Facebook was opened up to everybody who had an email address and who was over the age of 13. It's pretty easy. Go to facebook.com, fill in all these details about yourself. It's not a big deal, right? But this isn't a universal experience for everyone. We can stop just right here at the sign-up page and have a wide range of user experiences that we can tell stories about. So when you look at this, you can think back to those screws and those electric shavers, right? Underneath this sign-up page, there's screws there too. There's code that was designed by a person and that ends up, appearing like this on our devices. And we can see that it's pretty blatant here how gender factors in. You can see it right there, female, male. And there's a certain understanding of gender that's underneath that. And it's a traditional understanding of gender again, one that's, it's actually what's happened here is a gender binary has gotten inscribed into the code of Facebook. Now, it's not just their understanding of gender. There's more to it than that. Gender is a really important category when it comes to advertising on Facebook. But what does this mean? What does this mean for the users that the designers had in mind when they were designing Facebook? What does this mean for users that don't fit, that don't identify as female or male? We're talking about people who identify as genderqueer, two-spirit, intersex. What happens? They simply don't fit. If you try to sign up and you don't select male or female, you get this error message. You just don't fit. So you have to lie if you still want to join the site, right? Lying about that, about yourself on Facebook when you're signing up, is actually violating the terms of service. But okay, you do that, you go ahead. You can still make your gender invisible on your profile, so that's cool. But the gender pronoun is still there throughout the site. So it's still problematic, especially when Facebook constantly says, we're trying to make the world more open and connected for everyone. Let's see how else you can do it. You don't have to inscribe the gender binary in your design. That's a choice, right? This is how Google Plus has done it. Female, male, other. Some would say that that's, well, othering. There's diaspora. Here there's a text field. You can put whatever you want in there. Now, diaspora is a social media site that's open source. That means you have access to the code. That means anybody can edit it. So the power dynamics between designers and users are very different here. But let's go back to those ideas I was talking about in the beginning, the Phyllis shave, the lady shave. Okay, sure, some users may have, subtly acknowledged that they fit into this prescribed gender role for them, sure. It's hardly the case that women went out, bought a lady shave, went home, and said, I don't think I'm going to leave the house again. I don't think so. They looked at that screwdriver. Not for me. No, come on. Users aren't passive. It's wrong for us to think about them in that way. Users aren't constrained by technological forces. And the same thing here with Facebook and the gender options. Users aren't passive there either. When in doubt, bend the technology to your will. manipulate the code. Check it out. I did it. There's online tutorials for this, and a lot of people have an interest in changing the gender pronoun that's used for them on Facebook. You can do it too. In your web browser, you can have an add-on developer tool and hack the code. Go for it. It's fun. So you've got female, male. Well, why not add in something else? Anything. You can write whatever you want. I chose to write in hacking my gender. You can pick that, and then Facebook saying, well, I don't know what to do. You know, the code doesn't know which one to associate with you. So it changes from Rena Bivens commented on her own status to their status. Let's return, though, to that sign-up page. There's other subsets of users, too, you know, who hit this sign-up page and they stumble. And they have this different experience when they reach this page. Let's talk about survivors of sexual violence. Users who have, let's say, a stalker, come to this page and say, all my friends are on Facebook, I want to join too. But privacy, security issues are sort of at the top of their head. So, again, they lie, and they violate Facebook's terms of service. They make up fake accounts, because they need to check to see how safe this site is for them. They've got to check out these security features. So this is what you see currently. It changes all the time on Facebook. You can block someone to unfriend them, add their name or email. If you take a look at that little tiny question mark there, you find out that people you block can still see and comment on stuff you share in groups, apps, and other shared places. Okay, that's a little vague. So some users will create multiple accounts. They'll design all kinds of scenarios in order to see what that functionality is really like, how safe and secure they feel, whether they're happy enough to make a profile under their real name, and try this time not to violate Facebook's terms of service. So they do that, but that can, you know, take a lot of digital literacy to be able to do that, to be able to figure out how this works, and a lot of trust in the social media site. That the next time they roll out a new design, make some changes, that their settings won't revert back to default. And that's happened in the past. Now, most popular social media sites require you to use your real name. And they're really serious about that. And they come from a place of security concerns. So you've got Facebook's head of privacy who will say, trust on the internet depends on having a fixed and known identity. A fixed and known identity. This doesn't work for everyone. This doesn't fit with everyone's lived experiences. So you've got people who are trying to be safe who don't want to have their real name on their profile. You've got like this idea that having a fixed identity for the entirety of your life, it's kind of unrealistic. Now, these power dynamics between designers and users, they can get complicated. And when there's an imbalance of power, it means there's a gap for designers to understand what the consequences are of their decisions. So think about this algorithm on Facebook. It's called People You May Know. It's a pretty simple algorithm. No big deal. You know, it's based on your mutual friends. So there's this computer-generated list of suggestions of who you might want to add to your Facebook profile, to your network. It's got good intentions. It's meant to build your network, to help you find people. But this just isn't the experience of everyone. So again, we're talking about survivors of sexual violence here, right? In my research, I've found that frequently and unintentionally, a result of this is that Facebook will prompt users to friend their rapist. Now, this is a very triggering experience. It makes you a bit uncomfortable when you're using the site. This is not to say that People You May Know algorithm was intending to do this. It's not to say that you can alter the code and somehow Facebook will know who all the perpetrators of sexual violence are, you know, and make sure not to have them show up on your page. Unfortunately, nobody knows who all these perpetrators are, right? But when you have the knowledge that rape is most often perpetrated by someone you know, it's predictable that something like that's going to happen out of this algorithm. I'm not saying it's something that we should just take away, but maybe we could opt out. Or at least, if we make some of these marginalized experiences more visible, we can design social media better. So design is a social act. It's not free of gendered power relations. Gender is a factor in design. Designers don't exist in a social vacuum. Gender influences the ideas of who the users are going to be and what kind of uses that technology will have. So do we want people who don't fit, users who don't fit into these designs, to opt out of social media? Should they have to do that? Teenagers tell us that they cease to exist socially if they're not on Facebook. So what can we do? Well, we can try and break the cycle of social marginalization that we've already designed offline. We can work towards that. We can try and seek out where gender is reproduced in design and try and make changes. We can try and put designers and users together in a room. We can try and get them to engage and co-produce technologies. And we can diversify the pool of engineers and designers. That doesn't just mean encouraging more girls and women to learn how to code. It's not just about that. It's also about trying to get a pool of engineers and designers that aren't gender blind and that understand a little bit more about these kind of user dynamics. So we've got to piece together these complex relationships between designers, users, and technologies. Just because the inner workings of social media spaces are not always so clear, they're hidden, they're obscure, it doesn't mean we should stop looking for the screws. It's time for some adjustment. We need a better fit. Thanks.